Hello, everybody. And yeah, thank you for joining. This is a little transmission about the very controversial topic of entities. And today we're recording this Zoom call, but we're going to put it on YouTube for a couple of weeks and then take it down. So for anybody who's watching, this was like a little mini tutorial about the forthcoming course and entities, but we're also going to talk a little bit about the timelines that we're in and why this is coming up to be worked with right now. And we'll talk a little bit about our forthcoming course because this is really why we're here today. But if we have got a little bit of time, we're going to go on for about 45 minutes. If we have got a little bit of time, we will ask some more direct questions. I don't mean we're going to give you an exorcism or do big work on you, but there may be a little bit of time for questions. And Marianne is going to be fielding the questions. So what I want to say is if you do the entities course, we actually have a weekly clinic. I know that this topic is really big for people when they're on a metaphysical journey, if they're an energy medicine practitioner or working shamanically, or all of these things. And actually, it's going to be very big this year. So we can't answer all your questions, but we really have a very strong point in the course that we're running is that we really want to answer your questions in that. And maybe if we've got a little bit of time today, and there's some questions that feel really, really right for today, we'll of course try to talk about them. But yeah, just really want to box this off. If you're coming here thinking that we can give you a lot of support here, this is not what today's session is about. But we may have time to give a little bit of signposting. Okay. So I want to welcome you all into the space, and I want to welcome you in as a being of the heart and spirit. And what we'll do to just land us into the space is we're going to do a little bit of a connection to what we call self energy, which is a term used in internal family systems. And the reason we're going to connect with self energy is that the very nature of the topic of entities can lend itself to a lot of fear, a lot of dualism, conflict, all of those things. So, just so that we can all be in a safe space together, I'm just going to encourage you to close your eyes for a little minute and just take a few deep breaths and just let everything slow right down to a focus on the heart space. And if there was one or two qualities I would ask for you to try to nurture right now, it's healthy curiosity and compassion. And just breathe into the knowing that within your fabric and your blueprint, your natural default is full of compassion and healthy curiosity. And just let yourself land into some healthy curiosity about what we're going to share today and how we're going to approach it and how you can start to approach the topic of entities with healthy curiosity. And as I say the word entities, I just want you to scan your being, scan your brain, scan your body for any fear or contractedness, any worry, any feeling of conflict that may arise when I say the word entity. And with this healthy curiosity in your heart space, just spend a little moment observing this part of you that has a response to the words entities or entity. And just look at maybe how long that feeling, that part has been there. Letting it know that it's welcome and it's valid. but observing that it is a part. Our truer essence is self-energy. All the parts in our system have been brought in for noble reasons. And just let this part, if you have one, let it know that you really care and you acknowledge it. And that you know that the reason it is there is for a good reason. For the next 45 minutes, please ask this part to step aside so that your self energy can be your go-to as we have this session. But please let any of these parts know that they're free to watch, and we really welcome them. And I'm just going to give a little bit of space and time for you to relay that dialogue in a way that your system and your processing understands. And for this 45 minutes or so, we welcome an expanded, beautifully curious weaving on this topic of entities, our metaphysical journeys, why this is so important at this time, and a little bit about our course that we have and how people can approach it depending on their needs and their level. We give gratitude to the parts in our system. We welcome you all. We acknowledge you all. We welcome and acknowledge our self-energy. With this heart coherence intact, we just invite you to start to bring your energy back into the space so that we can have a lively, high dimensional discussion on entities today. Okay? So I'm going to spend a couple of minutes just talking about why not? And then I think we'll open for a few questions. And then we'll talk a little bit about our forthcoming course. And some of you I don't know on the call, so I just really want to welcome you. Thank you for joining. And so why now? Okay, why now? And why the topic of entities? So as you know, we've got a little school called Dharma Stars, and part of our vision is to really help everybody find their highest pathway in this time. And I'm very fortunate to have studied with Khentrul Rinpoche, Kalachakra Master, who is a vanguard of what we might call the Golden Age. And I have been very, very keen since I was very young in also playing a part in what some people might call the Aquarian Age or the New Earth. And I've written a book about what I see as this convergence point that we're right in right now. And if anybody's paying attention to astrology right now, you'll see we are in it. The shift is upon us. And there's going to be a lot of rebellion this year. There's going to be a lot of transformation and a lot of the speaking up and the acting up around inequality. And on top of that, so firstly, a lot of the energy that we have, you can lead it back to grand cycles where things like the French Revolution took place, or even epochs 12,000 years ago, or even some of the more micro activities that are taking place were pretty much exactly the same as 1968 when Martin Luther King was shot, when the civil rights movement really took off, when there was a student unrest all around the world, strikes, all sorts of things, hippie movement at its peak, mass dissent against Vietnam. And so we have a sense of almost an upgrade of a lot of these things, but also it feels like it's going to go into also the metaphysical terrains. The social plus the metaphysical are up for shift. Okay. And so we also, in the middle of the month, the new Mayan year takes place. And each year you have a year lord. So it's kind of roughly telling you the energy that you're going to have for that year. And the energy is 13 ik. And ik is all about breath, communication with spirit, and spirit. And number 13 is the ancestors, it's the spirit world. So there's a real sense that spiritual communication is going to speed up, and the veil is going to thin. And already a lot of people are experiencing that. So this topic of interference that some people speak of, I have a lot of friends and students who are feeling interference at the moment. And this is further accentuated by where a lot of the karmic energy is taking place in Vedic astrology around um, these higher celestial bodies. And one of them is called Purva Bhadrapadra, which is very, very much about this quest to move beyond duality, but being really in the funk of duality to have to get through it. And this is part, Purva Bhadrapadra is actually one of the higher nakshatras. And it's really very much what happens when we're on a spiritual journey in the younger years is this is bad, that is good, that's black magic, this is white magic, all of those things come up. And the spirit world starts to knock on our door. And the thing is that when we have a lot of cultural programming, a lack of understanding, and we also have our own wounds, this can lead to being very destabilized, to having these very, very excessive awakening processes, to being possessed, all of these things. And these things can be very damaging for people. Like I spent a long time working within the world of plant medicines around the world and seeing so much stuff. And, I've had my own little moments of being hijacked a bit by spirits, but never very long. Okay. And anything we do, we're energy by its nature is always moving from one thing to another. And spirit energy is energy. And as we deepen our metaphysical journey, it starts to knock on our door. Okay. And this is one of the reasons why we're running the course is that we have a lot of students who are starting to experience that knocking on the door, or maybe people have gone and done, a dieta in Peru and come back very fragmented, or people have a family member who seems very possessed, or somebody's done some magic and opened up a portal and some heavy stuff is happening. So these things are around, and they mark the journey. And what I've seen through my years is a lot of fear, a lot of drama, and a lot of people whose lives have been ruined. Okay. And I have about 25 years worth of stories about all of this stuff of the world of weird. And that's why we're doing this course, because I'm going to tell my crazy stories. But no, I'm also going to give a lot of very applied teachings. And yeah, this year is the year. We've had quite a lot of students go, please, will you do a course on entities? And I'm like, yeah, okay, we'll do it at some point. And now the portal seems to want to open, because for me, it's about commemorating the spirit world. But also, I've done a lot of training with a master of non-duality. And my pledge is to help people understand the energetics of all of this through their own body, through their own mapping, through their own self-reflexive journey, and to take people from this contracted, dualistic, fear-based way of approaching entities, which often creates a lot of problems for our own energetic processing. It can mean that we're plagued by unbalanced emotions, we're attracting a lot of bad luck, all of these things, and worse. You know, I've worked with many people who maybe haven't been discerning about who they've done certain work with and have been institutionalized or can't work 7 years later because they're so fragmented. People who have made contracts with heavy entities and kind of sold their soul. You know, these sorts of things happen. But there are ways of approaching this that are really, really expanded. And the training that we are giving is to help people to start at the journey and understand their own programming and why this is coming to them at this time, and to map that and then map what's going on in their environment. And then to share different cosmologies and different lineages who have beautifully robust ways of looking at this to help you to understand a more expanded way of approaching this that is more from the heart upwards, which is why I started with this self meditation, because actually what happens is when we are in the lower energy centers, we're more likely to get really contracted by fear and we're going to attract heaviness. And Marianne's done a beautiful presentation. We haven't recorded it yet, which is talking a lot about heavy and light energies and the Kero tribe of Peru, who we've both worked with. And I will be talking about Tibetan Buddhism and some very, very powerful practices. We won't be initiating you in those, but this course is going to help you to understand how to be your own thought police, to stay robust, and to actually become a spirit communicator, just like this year 13 ick, and to actually be able to talk to spirits and beings just like it was your own weird auntie. Okay. So this is where we can get to, is that it becomes just another day at the office. It's just like, yeah, there's a protocol, there's a chat, it's really safe. You know, I get brought into works all around the world because I kind of started to understand there was a way this worked because of understanding psychotherapy, shamanism, geomancy, Buddhism. That suddenly I was like, oh, you just, there's a language. And when we apply this, as long as we're not in fear, we can actually get very far. And ultimately everything, if we're looking at things from a tantric perspective, everything is a possibility for us to step into the dharma and to use it wisely. And entities, spirit possession, all of these things are no different. Each thing is a wonderful teacher, and each thing can bring you such an amount of deeper understanding of your own purpose. And this is another thing I should say is sometimes people are seeking, I want to be this exorcist, but actually they don't really have the conditions in their life to do that. And other people will start to realize, wow, when I look back at my life, it's always been like these things have been around. So the course will also help you to see what is your role with being in dialogue with the spirit world, and how does this work for you, and how can you step into that journey. Okay, so I think that's all I really want to say. It's very basic, but I will let you have ask some questions now if anybody wants to find out anything, and then we'll maybe talk about the course a little bit. Yeah, if anybody has anything they want to say. We're having a serious protocol about the call today because when you work with entities and energies, one of the most important things you need to do is set up a safe space first. Okay. So we are being like a fractal. Normally we let everybody be on unmuted, but we're like, no, we're going to ground the space and then we will let you talk. This is an important lesson, because this is, like Morgan's like, whoa, what are we doing? She's used to not having that facility. And I had to have a chat with Marianne today and say, we start, everybody's muted. You can't just interfere on your own terms. Not that I'm saying Morgan's interfering, but we wanted to be like, it's all about how you set up pristine space, how your intentions are, how you know that you are confident and in your zone. Okay. And then we'll have that dialogue. Okay. So this is like a fractal with how you would interact with the spirit world in many ways.
I was just wondering how long, like, what's the kind of structure of the course?
Good question. Okay. So as I've said with the astrology, we get these very deep messages like, you have to do this now, and we study the astrology, and then we're like, yes, that's why it's now. So the course is quite compact, okay? But there's some that's due in your own time and some that's not. So it starts, if people signed up today, they could start studying it because we've already put up the first classes, and we already have a couple of people doing that. And then we have, so there are two recorded classes that are already up there. Then we have school on the 22nd of February. And the 22nd of February, we're going to do like a tutorial, but it's going to be more interactive than the recorded one. So on each slide, we'll almost have a discussion. And then we're going to do clinic on that day as well. So it's going to be in UK time, approximately 4 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. with a break in the middle. So, I know for me, when I was, in the earlier parts of my journey, finding someone I could talk to about what was going on was really massive. And so I'm looking forward to our juicy clinic. Okay. So this is where you can bring, if you're a practitioner or you've seen something weird in your community, you can bring that to us and we'll answer as best we can. Okay. So this is a really good opportunity for you to ask those questions about what you're observing, because I think that what we need to get people to is a deeper state of gnosis about their own ability to see and intuit with the spirit world. And this is where we often need a mentor. I know when I was, I've been working, and doing things around like South America and lots of places for many years. And then when I had my SECM teacher, it was just really good to talk to her about metaphysical stuff because and this is why I'm here, is to help people with my 25 years of crazy stories, to help you contextualize, because once most people, once they get a few contextualizations, they find their own groove of gnosis and trust, but also you can check in. So this is going to be very valuable, I feel. I think this is one of the big strong points about this course. So in essence, week one, therefore, comprises of four sessions: the two pre-recorded, then the one tutorial that's a presentation but it's interactive, and then clinic on. And so that's all. We call that level one within level one, okay, or level 1A, okay. And this level, we know that some people maybe haven't studied with us before, so people have the option to just do this as like a mini level if they want to just try it out. And they'll still get the benefit of the clinic. They'll get all these first transmissions. And for somebody who's maybe new on their path, this can be good to help you to start to map yourself. So within this, there's going to be very deep teachings about our own energetic body, how we can understand what's coming to us, how we can start to analyze our own karmic journey and our own wounds, and to start to develop a kind of self-reflexive toolkit of our own to start to understand entities beyond fear-based programming. Okay, so it's creating the foundations, but it's still very much looking at that journey of duality and helping people to understand that so that they've got a foundation to move from. Okay, so that's all culminating on the 22nd. And then there are two more. If people want to do the whole course, then there's two more pre-recorded sessions. And then it's the same format as the week before. And this all culminates on the 1st of March. So another two pre-recorded sessions, then an interactive tutorial on the 1st, and then another clinic on the 1st where we're going to go more off-piste, okay? And the material on the 1st of March is a lot more about different cosmologies who work with the spirit realm and the natural realm, helping people to understand that and helping people to understand the navigation of spiritual communication and some of the laws that hold that. And yeah, and also how we have these codes within nature work, within psychotherapy, also how we can spot what we might call metaphysical disturbance in the realm even of psychiatry. We also look at the evolution of psychotherapy, of diagnoses, all sorts of things. So I also do quite a lot of toolkit giving around how to understand and demystify some of these labels that people are given in communities and have a more robust way of working with that. Actually, I should say something else. On the first week, we also look at the concept of the narcissist and wetiko, which are these big parasitical energies that are often, I would say, misconstrued, and I believe as part of the collective karma to start to work with from a different vantage point so that we can actually overcome as well this dichotomy between the narcissist and the empath that you see so many people writing about, and to also understand your own programming around that dialectic. Okay, so yeah, so then week two is more of these frameworks. So once you've done know thyself and map thyself, it's deeper into the frameworks and the navigation. And then the last two pre-recorded sessions are due in your own time. We're also going to have a Slack forum because we don't want to like overload people. It's going to be a lot. It's almost like a retreat of 8 days and 2 weekend, 2 day weekend, 4 hour weekend day, 4 hour weekend day, 1 week, and then the next week. And then the next two sessions, one of them is about, certain tools that I've used in the work in my life with different sorts of things like exorcisms or shamanic work, and just giving you a bit of signposting so that if you wanted to go and get initiated in something as a tool, you could build up your toolkit as it might call you, and just to let you know what shamans use or exorcists use in certain settings. And what's the other one? I can't quite remember. Marianne, do you have access to it? I can get up. Actually, I've got it almost open my computer. Let me get this one. Um, yeah, the last one is looking at a very powerful concept of feeding your demons and the chud practice. That's a non-dual, very powerful practice that is actually one of the only practices in Tibetan Buddhism that is really renowned for having been actually brought through by a woman. And yeah, so it's not like we're going to empower you in that, but understanding the concepts of that, again, it helps you to have a vantage point on some of the really high non-dual techniques out there. And I can tell you that before I was initiated into chud, because I'm now initiated into it, I utilized some of the concepts of working with it in my own work. But once I'd been doing a lot of spirit work for a while, it's going into this really deep, deep, deep non-duality with spirits that's just like, come and eat me, you know? And you can see I'm still here today. I think I'm here. I don't really know, but yeah. So it's just, so we're going to end on those things with some tools and really high level practices. And then, if some of these things call you, we can also signpost you to teachers and lamas and people who share these practices. Okay. And also within the course, there's each presentation has got like a key text. So there's a lot of really beautiful, beautiful books out there in each of these modalities. So there's a lot of signposting that goes on within that. Okay. And then post those 2 real-time days, there will be time to have a little bit more online clinic via the forum, okay, by the forum Slack.
So we have a question in the chat who asks, are entities always attracted by our own woundings?
Yeah, so there would be different fields of study would say different things. And I think that it's also about a journey to wholeness, is that it depends on the way the entities are coming through. And we're going to talk about that in the first sessions. This is real clinic stuff. So my feeling is that this is the path of the metaphysical practitioner. There's when these things are coming because it's your wounds. But if we're on a tantric path, so it starts off being about our wounds, but why does it come to you? Because in the higher path, maybe you're supposed to work with it. Okay. So there's the point where we're realizing that entities are teaching us about our own energetic tears. And then once we've healed that and we've gone beyond the victimized role and the contractedness, we realize all the teachings we got from that. Because if you're going to be a spirit worker, how could you ever work with someone if you've not experienced it yourself? Okay. An exorcist has to have had spirits in them. But it's about keeping your energetic hygiene and spiritual hygiene clean enough that you're not just the local motorway way for everybody to pass through. So this is one of the questions we're really asking, you know. But so it's about starting to map yourself, but seeing the perfection of that trajectory. And as I say, if I wouldn't go to someone who hasn't experienced a thing to get myself released from it. Okay. So there's a robust way we can look at that. It's like, yes, definitely at first there will be something, the reason why it's attracting, we keep having it around. And this is also about how we deal with them. Okay. So there are certain points in the journey where it's like the energy that's going to be very big this year, this Purva Bhadrapadra, which is this dialectic between good and evil. And, you know, this is all a conspiracy that's being done to me. Yeah. And this is going to be up, up, up all the time because it's there to push us out of that, to just go, you know, nothing is really what it seems. And this is the world of working with entities, is we're always trying to say this is evil, this is doing this to me. But actually, entities are great teachers. Why does it come into your life at a certain point? Why do we have a certain reaction? And part of this course is to help us to reprogram from this feeling of having to be combatant with it, okay? And this is what ultimately what practices like Chud do as well, is that you go beyond being combatant. You're just like, eat me, yeah? Just like gonna give you like me, yeah. But if you speak to people, because we watch all these horror films and people are always, you know, people are always like, I hate my neighbor, they're evil. We're in such a dualistic society where there's this cult of otherizing what we don't understand, that it remains a wounded response until we can come into the heart space and into these more healthy ways of dialoguing with these beings. And once we can do that, we're a spirit worker who's an inter-realm communicator. Okay, the dialogue upgrades, and we can start to come to the oneness of bringing all the ecosystems together and understanding the spirit realm, and understanding when interference is. So when are we supposed to banish something? When are we supposed to have a chat? When are we supposed to just let something lift? Okay. And to start to understand that dialogue. But what happens is, in the early days of the journey, people are often like, oh my goodness, this heavy thing is trying to attack me. I'm under attack. There's interference everywhere. Rather than slowing it down and going, what is this showing me? And, you know, why does this come to me? And then, you know, this is why we want to help to teach a fleet of people how they can be communicators and how to start overcoming this programming that we have around appearances. Ultimately, this is about appearances. When something seems scary, and we talk a lot about that in the early parts of the course, you know, to help you to really understand how to examine your own programming about what is good and what is evil. Okay, so this is all the crux of week one, is really starting to examine that and to journal that. Okay, and yeah, hope that helps. Anybody got any questions or anything? Yeah, thank you, Sinead.
Nice to meet you. Thank you very much for the overview of the course. Could you give a little bit more sort of information on the kind of relative ratio between the sort of theory overview of different cosmologies versus practical tools for working with entities, particularly from the point of view of doing healing for others and really doing entity release and things like that. Just, yeah, thank you.
Okay, so in this level one, which is all the sort of 10 sections I just spoke of, this is a framework setting. And I'll tell you why. Because some people may come on and be very fragmented and need to do some work before they can go into the practical. And we probably will seek to get this course accredited. And it would not be safe working for us to just let you all go and be exorcists overnight. Or I showed up at this course and I did this. A lot of the way we work in our courses is to help people to become pattern thinkers and to see the connection between things. And therefore, within all of the teachings, there's actually like the optimum protocols and toolkits that, depending on your personal level, you will be able to use or not, depending on, are you still attracting things in and you're at war with them? Or are you doing extractions or exorcisms or depossessions or whatever we might want to call them? So the clinic sessions on both those 2 weekends are where you, as I said, especially in week 2. So week 1, there may be some people who are very new, okay? And we have to start somewhere because otherwise I would be unsafe, okay? This is, the thing about this course is that I have to be super protective of holding a space, because sometimes we say the word entities and people with entities want to come and, fling all their stuff into it. I have so much experience of having to deal with people in very fragmented states. Okay. So we have to see what the energy of the group is before we can answer some of those questions safely. But within it, there's a toolkit. So each section has very deep fundamentals. And also I break it down and there's case studies. So the lateral thinking of processing the case studies will help you to understand the language of working with these things. And then in week 2, I think the clinic's going to go way more metaphysical in week 2. So you can bring your questions in there. And then when people can ground that capably, and there will be some form of little assessment, if there are enough people or when there are enough people, I am happy to run a level 2, which is like action team experiential. And we do this with our death course as well. We have certain courses where when we've done the basic teachings, we then, for instance, with some of our SECM initiates, we then have an action team. And when people have left their body, we work on it as we're invited to. And this has been huge for people. So I foresee that happening, but I would need to be able to see that this person isn't stuck in drama world. They're not going to be a nightmare because it's going to be like constant interference, because that's not going to be conducive to the teachings. So I have to be very, very careful with this course because it's a controversial dualistic topic presented in a non-dualistic way. But yeah, it's, when we're working non-dually, and you'll hear case studies about this, what appears as super hijacked energy can enter, and it's about how we work with the perfection of that. So I cannot predict, okay? But what each person brings into the space will help us to navigate that, and that's why there is plenty of time. I will have to be very careful about what's in Clinic 1 and what's in Clinic 2, so that level 1 type people who don't go forward to week 2 don't get frazzled or it doesn't become unsafe for them. But if you stay on to week 2, we're ready to go in really deep. Okay? Does that clarify for you?
Yes, thank you. And can I just briefly ask a follow-up on this? Cam and Kala Chakra teachings methods you bringing into this course.
Sorry, say that again?
How much of Sekam and Kala Chakra teachings and methods you bringing into this course?
Yeah, not so much in this particular course, but the foundational principles that are linked to Chud. I haven't made the full Chud presentation yet, so we're doing it in order. So if you have an aspiration for me to include quite a lot regarding Kala Chakra, I could, but I have to be careful that I don't seem to misrepresent the lineage that I learn under. I'm not putting myself up to be like a lama or anything, but if you ask me questions about Kala Chakra in context, in Kala Chakra, so we're working, when we work with things like Tibetan Buddhism, we're working with the acceptance of spirits and doing a lot of pujas and offerings. And there are certain deity forms that can be seen as quite wrathful, all of these things. But I'm not a teacher of Kala Chakra. But if people want signposting, I can give you signposting. And as I say, I will be guided to how I'm going to put together the Chud and the Kalachakra session. But yeah, I'm not going to be giving like lineage teachings, anything like that. But what I can do is kind of consolidate little bits and then signpost you across. That's my role, is to help people find. Do you know Kalachakra? Do you work with it?
Well, part of my attraction to this offering is you bring two of the lineages that I'm connected with. One is Sekhem, and I've been learning and practicing within Tibetan Buddhist tradition for many, many years. Dzogchen is my main practice, so non-dual has been my path for many years. And I've recently connected with Kalachakra. But I've never connected with it through the Gelugpa lineage. And only by connecting with you, I learned about Janan tradition and that it became suppressed. So that really activated something in me. So I'm very much interested in what you bring as a synthesis of these different lineages that have been dominant in my own spiritual development, my spiritual path.
Wonderful. Well, it'd be lovely to talk more with you. And maybe, as I say, this is, if you can understand, like a lot of people may be really new on their spiritual path. So us putting it in a Kalachakra is seen as like a king of tantras. So just so that you're aware, I won't be able to offer anything too high level, because for many people, they won't understand the synthesis. But we can definitely, we have a lot of students who will probably do the course. Or I don't know how many people do the course, but we have a lot of SECM students. So it's in week 2, we're happy to talk about how we extract energies and work with things in SECM and in a space of people ask. Yeah.
Right.
And
right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because for me, working with entities is more of kind of reluctant necessity, I would say, rather than something I'm really, passionate about, to be honest. It just comes up in the healing sessions, and I just would like to be able to work with it. Well, I am working with it from non-dual compassionate perspective already, but obviously there is much more I can learn about it, because at the moment it's sort of just orienting myself very quickly in the situation when it demands. But I would like to be able to work with it in a more grounded, conscious, intentional way.
Cool. Well, yeah, I hope to be able. I think that once we understand that it's like any of these languages, that actually, as long as you have certain things in the formula, it works. That's one of the cruxes of this teaching, because as I mentioned earlier, people invite me into all sorts of like stuff with like star beings and aliens and stuff like that. And I'm not a seer, I feel, and I work with language.
Yeah.
And the ambassadorial role that I get brought into, often people, it always seems to work because I'm applying this synthesis of these things. And so this is why we call it safe working and non-dual work, because it's bringing principles from all of these together and helping people to understand how energy works, and then how you can just go into a safe dialogue, and then also when you need to refer if it feels too big to work with, so that you are continuing to be being safe by not being gung-ho in a setting where you're not properly trained. So it's about helping people to map all of that and to work without fear. Yeah. So yeah, and yeah, and Sekem for me really it deepened my confidence in working with a lot of these things. Like the amount of case studies that I had and the amount of shamanic spaces I had to start holding all along my pathway with Sekem went hand in hand with this deeper development into doing a lot of spirit work, a lot of depossession, a lot all the time. And now it's just at a point where I'm just like, yeah, it doesn't even feel so much like work in some ways. Yeah. So yeah, and the Chud practice that I have I was initiated by Kalachakra Master Khentrul Rinpoche. So it will be through his lens as well that I will share those teachings. Yeah. But I'm really happy. You probably have more experience with Tibetan Buddhism than I do. I've worked intensively for 5 years with Khentrul Rinpoche, and I was connected in with Kalachakra Tantra in the late 90s. But it's and so he's like my root guru, but I am not a Buddhist. So I'm a Kalachakra Tantra practitioner and Sekhem teacher and all these other things. So, but I'm here to weave with people and to try to bring this more Dakini energy through, which is trying to de-intellectualize a lot of this to find the universal within it that can really make us very robust and expansive with being these sky dancers with these energies.
I can relate to I hesitate to call myself a Buddhist as well. I tend to call myself Padma Sambhavist.
Yes, I know. I've got him behind me. Padma Sambhava here.
Yes, I can
This
see.
is it. I think so many of us feel just that field of this deep quantum magic mystery, and to tap into that for guidance. Yeah, I think a lot of us are in his group. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Have we got one more question before we go? Will we run this level 1 more than once? So it's always hard to say. And the way we do things is that when we run a course once, there'll be like the 10 sessions like we're having. And then sometimes it feels like time to run something again. And I usually add extra sessions, but I can't tell you when that will be. And it will be available for anybody who wants to join it later as a pre-recorded version. But in terms of me space holding and doing clinic, it's just not viable for us to just have everybody have their own private workshop on their stuff. So we have to have a significant amount of people. It's usually about a minimum of 6 who all come in around the same time to make it viable for us, because half the time half people turn up and it's just limp on the screen and it's a lot of energy for us. So in terms of these clinics and the real-time component, I can't tell you when that will run again, because we have a lot of materials that we're producing, and it certainly will not run before like April next year. I know that. So yeah, that's that. But and yeah, we just rotate things as it comes. Yeah. Morgan?
I actually had the same question because I'm so annoyed because the 22nd and the 1st, I have these workshops I have to do for my day job, but they finish at 1 p.m.
Oh, it's
annoying.
fine. It starts at 4 p.m.
That's at 4. Okay, right. I'm coming.
Yeah.
I'm doing it.
Yeah, and the in-betweeny way, which really came forward strongly, the in-betweeny way would be maybe come for the 22nd, and then if it's a challenge, you can just pay to do install like 1.A, yeah? And then in your own time, you can come back and do the next bit. And yeah, the deal is that if there's a lot of you who just opt in for 1A, then I will maybe host another clinic for a group of you who do a lot of stuff with Dharma stars or whatever, because then you can come and do your clinic too. Okay, so that's the in-betweeny way. That means, because it is, as I say, the time is now for us to do it because we've got busy schedule. So it's been quite a lot of work to be like, right, let's make this. But we know the time is now, but I also understand for a lot of people, like it's big commitment, 2 weekends in a row. It's quite, for people who've got a lot of other stuff going on, it's like 8 sessions over 2 weekends. Obviously, well, it's elongated because you could start section 1A today if you wanted. So it's all about how people do their time management. But as I say, that's why we've made this kind of mini version, because it's like 4 chunky sessions and you get this real-time thing included as your number 4. So that's the way round we thought for people, because some people did the Ancestors course recently and the Venus-Saturn journey and the Sacral journey. So we just thought, okay, just so that people don't get frazzled, you could just do week 1 and then you can then come and do 1.B in your own time later. Okay, so that's the happy medium that I can suggest for some of you if you're feeling the time's a bit challenging or money issues or you're not sure if it's for you. Come and do that, and you'll get a really grounded personal journey out of it with some really powerful signposting to start to appraise your own energetic body and many more things. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we have an anonymous question about sort of healing after an attachment or sort of an interaction with a very negative energy, whether that would be an entity or a human. But yeah, just would the course cover anything about kind of healing and recovery?
These are the sorts of things we can bring up in the clinic. And if people sign up, they can start to send us the questions for the clinic, and I'll make sure that those things get prioritized to deal with. So you've got this optimization of, like, we can really go into depth with these things for you. Really happy to do that. But this is, again, we need more context, and people, yeah, it's just, I'm not even sure in the full what the question's fully asking, and this is the sort of thing that people should come into. And I'm happy to sit, this is it, I'm happy to talk about these things. Yeah. Yeah.
I guess you mentioned it there when you were talking about running it again, because I guess it would be that question of, having done the ancestral and the sacral, would this be just like too much too soon? But I also feel like it would be beneficial. So it's that, like, trying to find that balance, I guess.
That's why I think the balance is 1.A, and
Mhm.
come and try it out in the 22nd. And it ends at a nice point of the personal, and what do I need to do, how to map that. It ties in quite nicely with the other courses. And then a person could say, actually, yeah, I'm really inspired, I want to do 1.B next week. Or they could go, right, I think that's enough, because it's not like it's an all day retreat and you have to be on a screen for 10 hours. It's like approximately a 2 hour session, a 30-minute break. And the first tutorial is interactive. So I'm doing most of the talking, and then you're all interacting, and then there's a break, and then it's clinic. So it's not like school with one of those courses where you get a 10-minute break and it's 8 hours, and it's kind of like an evening thing. And then so that it's not too intense, plus just two materials to watch up till then. And then, but some people might be like, I feel to box it off there, and then I'll come back to the next bit, because it depends, I think, where people are on their journey with things. And that's why we've kind of tiered it, that some people will be like, that's a really good point for me to read this book, to do this. And other people will be like, yeah, I get that. I kind of know where I am with that. All right.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Cool. So, just because we opened the space and some of you may have met or encountered a part that did have some fear or some response to the word entities, I just want you all to just tap back into that self energy, that healthy, compassionate, calm curiosity that is so important when we're doing healing work and holding space for others. And just scanning your system if you had a part or parts that had a bit of a response to the word entities. Just engage with this part or parts and just thank them for stepping aside. Thank them for everything that they do in your system, and let them know that you acknowledge them and the job that they do. And just let them know that along the way you would love to find out more about them. And then just scanning your system, just saying gratitude to all the parts of your system. They're all welcome. And then we're just going to slowly come out of your system back into the room. And just say something with that, even things like that. These are like keys. It's often, for instance, we'll talk about IFS in the course, but when we forget to do that, often the parts will start to play up. So completing any dialogue we began with them is good housekeeping, okay? We can talk about things like this, because sometimes a person may appear like they've got entities because and it can be an entity, we'll talk about all of that, because they started talking to something and then they didn't complete it, and it starts to rise up and take over. Okay. So even these little micro tools, these things are super important. It's all about being vigilant, being honorable, being diligent, honoring the protocols, and then everything just tells you what it needs to. And everything, there is a space for everything in the cosmos. This is one of the important teachings of these times. It is that in this time of a lot of displacement of people, displacement of creatures in their habitat, this is, even in the spirit world, the displacement of different spiritual energies. The grand homecoming is for us to realize that there is a true space for everything, and to do that with equanimity, and to just help the reassignment. Because when we do that, that's when we can really reach a golden age, because everybody will feel a sense of belonging, not just in the human realm, but in other realms. Okay. Thank you all for joining. Lovely to have you here. Yay. And if you do have any further questions, you can send some questions to Madalena. And yeah, I hope to see you on the 22nd. Cool. Ciao, ciao, everybody. Bye.